39 Clues had a point when it said that all rich people are evil. We should have listened to them in the early 2000s when they said it the first time. Hi, hello, ¿cómo estás? Welcome to my chan. I am Jan, and this is where I talk about books. This is an adult channel meant for adult viewers discussing nostalgia books for adults. Excuse any noises you hear. I do live in New York and I have neighbors. And on with the show. We begin with the grandmother of our protagonist on her deathbed. Grace Cahill changes her will with her lawyer, William McIntyre. He is one of Grace's closest confidants. She mentions that things have been going on for 500 years and that her actions will put the world in danger. And then she passes away in the night. Super cryptic and dramatic. She had one scene and she stole every moment. Queen shit. Cut to black, and we now follow Dan and Amy, our neighborhood orphans, who are making the best of being given shitty guardianship to their Aunt Beatrice. She is described as being mean and a penny pincher, and only Grace was any reprieve for these poor kids for the last 7 years. So yeah, she's a bit of a bitch. Dan is definitely neurodivergent coded, and Amy is a typical bookworm introvert. Dan has a bunch of hobbies, like collecting cards, grave rubbings, etc., and is Amy's younger brother by about 2 years. They arrive at Grace's mansion in the countryside for the funeral at the family cemetery. There's a bunch of people there, like hundreds of strangers. Afterwards, several attendees are invited to the reading of her will. It is here we meet the other members of the illustrious Cahill family tree. First up, we have the Cabrals, Ian and Natalie, Indian-British siblings. There is weird romantic tension that comes and goes between Ian and Amy. We don't talk about that. They represent the cunning Lucian branch. Next, we have the Holts, a nuclear family of muscleheads. Madison, Reagan, and Hamilton are the children, with Eisenhower and Mary Todd as dad and mom. The Holts represent the strong Thomas branch. We also have Ted, Ned, and Sinead Starling. They're triplets. They're teenagers who dress like an Ivy League lacrosse team. We can't really say much else about them. They don't stay in the story for long. Then there's Uncle Alistair O, an old Korean man who dresses fancy and carries a diamond-tipped cane. These teams represent the intelligent Ekaterina branch. His cousin Irina Spassky. She is of Russian relatives and an ex-KGB agent. She is jokingly called an ableist slur, mostly in the first book, and she is also a Lucian. And lastly, we have Jonah Wizard and his father, a rapper, and his agent respectively. They represent the artistic Janus branch. Jonah is a black boy written by a white man in the early 2000s, so expect certain stereotypes to pop up around his image and the way he's characterized. And many other unnamed relatives popped up for the funeral, which is being held in the family cemetery on the same grounds as a family mansion. It is during the reading of this will, where only our select protagonists and characters attend, it is revealed their family not only contains famous historical figures, but also that there is an opportunity to begin a treasure hunt and receive a clue, the first of 39, or take $1 million and walk away. No biggie, again, extremely cryptic. Obviously, our characters accept the money, all of them except for Aunt Bea, who makes a big show about leaving, and once you understand the context of the 39 clues and what it entails, you'll kind of wish our characters chose to take the money instead. The first clue is resolution, the fine print to guess. Seek out Richard S. And with this, our heroes are off. Amy decides to run to the library after having burned $2 million for a clue. We love a girl that takes charge. This clue leads Amy, Dan, and Uncle O, who decided to team up with our kids for some reason, to the secret library where they find Poor Richard's Almanac by Benjamin Franklin, who wrote it under a pseudonym. In it, they find notes written in its margins, one of which mentions a maze of bones. They barely glimpse this before they realize someone set fire to the mansion. They can smell smoke, and they see it billowing into the library. And now, separated from Uncle O, they use a secret exit to escape. And now a moment of silence for all those lost books in that secret library. And we're back. They also save Grace's cat, Saladin, so the good news is the dog doesn't die. After escaping and finding William McIntyre passed out outside, they realize Uncle O stole their only clue. They catch a glimpse of an unknown man in black far in the distance watching them, so now feeling dejected, scared, and lost, unsure how to proceed, Only now do they realize how serious and dangerous the clue hunt really is. After the police drop them off at home, they convince their aspiring chef au pair, I hate that word too, Nellie Gomez, to be their chaperone by omitting the real dangers of the clue hunt and framing it as a vacation for her. Pack quickly, sell some valuable possessions for expenses, and make plans to head to Philadelphia to follow Benjamin Franklin's life. We also get a glimpse at the way some teams are making alliances, like the Cabras and Irina. So Irina was going to threaten them with her poison nails at their meeting, but noticed at the end that Natalie had a poisoned dart gun aimed at Irina the whole time. These kids are messed up, but we love a girl boss moment, so points to Natalie for that. At the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, Dan and Amy run into the Starlings before a bomb goes off and the Starling siblings are lost in the rubble. All that remained of them was a cell phone Shanae Starling was holding before the roof came crashing down. It was not a smartphone, it was the early 2000s cell phone. Amy and Dan make it out unscathed and find a clue that leads them to Paris. They again lie to the au pair Nellie to get her to accompany them on a flight and leave Saladin the cat with William McIntyre, who wanted to rendezvous with them at Independence Hall. Alistair is ambushed after escaping from the Cabras. Also in Paris, Amy and Dan run into Jonah and his dad at the airport, and he takes them into his limo. We learn Nellie is trilingual, speaking Spanish, French, and English. Jonah also makes a point of snubbing Nellie for not being a Cahill. After Jonah drops them off at a sketchy French hotel, they spot Irina, who has Poor Richard's almanac, and quickly follow her through the streets of Paris. They wind up at the Lucian HQ in Paris. Dan steals some stuff, as one does, including a battery made by Benjamin Franklin. We also learn a lot of Lucians, while not evil, happen to be fucked up people like William Churchill. They overhear cousin Irina looking for a location in Paris and make a break for it after being caught by Lucian security. Dan not so subtly smashes a window to help them escape. They are clearly not experienced at this espionage stuff. Thankfully, the adults are mostly bumbling fools in this book, who are ready to take out a child at a moment's notice, like the Hamiltons, who were in a surveillance van nearby and now also know the location. Low on funds and out of other options, Amy and Dan go straight to the location instead of meeting up with Nellie and telling her the truth about the clue hunt, because she's in the dark about all this. She doesn't actually know what they're doing or what's going on. She just thinks this is a vacation. They arrive at a cemetery where a grave is seen bearing Amy and Dan's names. Realizing it's a trap a bit too late, it collapses and they fall into a sinkhole. Before the Holtz, who may or may not have set this up, but definitely admitted to setting the mansion on fire and bombing the Franklin Institute. Before they can do anything, a cement truck blocks the cemetery entrance, and a bunch of bad guys come out brandishing shovels. The Holtz agree to help Dan and Amy, and they make quick work of the men attacking them. The family, not Dan and Amy. Dan throws a concussive grenade, that's what he stole from the Lucian stronghold. The grenade takes out everyone. Dan and Amy use this chance to make a break for it, climb a tall fence, and take out two more men, who also were not knocked out by the blast, using Franklin's battery to electrocute the fence and the men. They then flee the cemetery together before they can be followed by anybody. When they get back to Nellie, they finally tell her the truth about the clue hunt. They also admit that Irina set them up and fill her in on the near-death experiences they've had. Nellie, a sensible young woman, decides to help them, vowing vengeance on everybody who tried to hurt her children. Together, Amy, Dan, and Nellie figure out that the maze of bones is hinting at the catacombs underneath Paris. Benjamin Franklin hid something in there before it opened in 1785, his final year that he was also in Paris. They run into Uncle Alistair outside the catacombs, and he tells them how there are many ways to uncover clues, and apologize for fleeing without them and taking the almanac. They don't trust him as one does, and move along without him. They finally find the clue, a magic box, something math-related, carved into a series of skulls that reveal numbers to the clue that Franklin hid. They run into the Cabras who threaten them, but they are saved by Uncle Alistair, and run into the catacombs until their flashlight dies. They eventually find their way out of the darkness and into a Parisian subway system. They barely avoid getting hit by an express train, and Dan loses his backpack that had the photo of his parents in it. This photo, it meant so much to Dan. He had tears in his eyes as he was trying to save it because he doesn't have any memories of his parents. He was too young when they passed away. It gets me every time. The clue leads them to the American Library in Paris, where they find an old receipt of Franklin's. On it is mentioned iron solute, something they also saw on a work of his in the Franklin Institute. They're also led to a church, matching the numbers found in the catacombs, bearing a lightning rod that Franklin helped to invent. Here they find a gravestone that, once dug up, reveals a secret entrance into the catacombs. There they find a vase and a shrine to the original founding Cahills, Luke, Thomas, Catherine, and Jane, standing in front of a burning house. Again, we have the theme of fire and destruction in this series. Dan and Amy together realize that this rivalry has been going on for hundreds of years. Cahill's burning each other every chance they get. When they remove the vase, they spot some sheet music carved into the rock. Inside the vase, they find a vial wrapped in paper. They don't have long to celebrate before they are ambushed by Jonah and his dad. Jonah has a video camera, and Amy gets so fed up, she threatens to destroy the vial, allowing them the chance to escape. Amy does a lot of growing up in this book, emotionally. However, outside is no safer. There are more relatives like the Holts, who burst out of the ice cream van lugging boxes of frozen treats. When they turn to run into the church, there is Alistair and Irina, who have allied together for now. After Irina and Alistair are knocked unconscious by the Holts throwing the ice cream boxes, Amy tells Dan that the vial is inert, and they need lightning to activate it. They climb the church in a thunderstorm that happened to conveniently be going on to allow lightning to strike the tower and activate the material inside of the vial. But again, they are interrupted by Ian Cabral flying in on a kite that Benjamin Franklin helped to invent. This time, who has bound and gagged Dan, while Amy was outside the tower. She was the one hooking up the vial to the lightning rod so that it can strike it. He promised to give Amy an antidote for Dan if she gives up the vial. She does without hesitation, but Dan was never poisoned to begin with. Ian lied and got away with the vial. Yet, Amy reveals that it wasn't the clue. The paper they kept was the real clue. As the police arrive, most of their relatives make it out, but Irina is given chase by the police. While recuperating, they discuss the first clue and what it was really hinting at. Resolution was an anagram for iron solute, and the clue they found was a famous piece of music written by someone with the initials W.A.M. And who plays music and has those initials? The one and only Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. They have to go to Vienna, Austria to solve the next clue. The book ends with William McIntyre meeting with the man in black who has been stalking Amy and Dan the whole way. William says he's called someone in Vienna who can help keep an eye on the kids, but the man in black thinks it's a dangerous idea to trust anyone. So that's where our story ends, with Dan and Amy about to head out to look for the next clue. We will pick up next time with their next adventure in Vienna. I want to mention also that each cover had clues to the next book's cover. Like on the Maze of Bones left edge, you can see bits of broken glass. Anyway, give the video a like and subscribe if you want. And don't forget to leave a comment letting me know which branch you think you would be a part of, as well as who your favorite character was in this book. And I'll see you next time.